We've all been there, right? From the smallest frustration to a really deep loss. Suffering is it's part of being human. It's a language we all understand, even if we can't quite make sense of it.
And that brings us to the big one. The question that's kept people up at night for thousands of years. Is all this pain just random noise? Or is there actually something more going on here? To even begin to get our heads around this, we're going to look at two very different, and you might think, opposite ways of seeing it.
So on one side, you have science, which sees suffering as a kind of biological alarm system. It's a tool, really, that's crucial for our survival. And then on the other side, you've got spiritual traditions, which see it as more of a cosmic test, a journey towards some kind of higher purpose. So are these two ideas totally at odds? Or maybe do they fit together in a way we might not expect?
Okay, first up, let's put on our evolutionary glasses. From this point of view, our ability to suffer isn't some design flaw. No, it's actually a critical feature. It's what helped our ancestors make it through the day.
See, in this framework, feelings like pain or fear aren't just there to make us miserable. They are what we call adaptive traits. Think of them like a super sophisticated toolkit for survival, one that's been sharpened and refined over millions of years.
And this is where it gets really interesting, how this all breaks down. I mean, physical pain, that's the obvious one, right? You touch a hot stove, you pull your hand away. It's a direct warning signal. Fear and anxiety, well, that's your body's fight or flight system kicking into gear, getting you ready to deal with danger. But then you have psychological discomfort. You know that feeling of embarrassment or regret? That's actually a powerful teacher, helping us learn from our mistakes so we don't make them again. And maybe most amazing of all is empathy, our ability to feel what others are feeling. That's the very glue that holds our communities together.
But here's the catch, and it is a huge one for us today. Our ancient survival wiring is really struggling to keep up with the modern world. This is something called the mismatch theory. That same anxiety that saved our ancestors from a predator is now being triggered 24/7 by things like work deadlines and social media dings. It leads to this constant low-grade stress. Basically, our internal alarm system was built for a world that just doesn't exist anymore.
So look, the evolutionary view is incredible for explaining the mechanics of suffering, the nuts and bolts of it all. But it has a pretty big blind spot. It tells us how we suffer, but it doesn't give us much in the way of meaning when we're actually going through it. It explains the hardware, but it says nothing about the personal experience.
And that big gap, well, that's exactly where our second perspective comes in. Let's shift gears and look at the spiritual answer, which dives headfirst into that human need for meaning.
So, this is a complete 180 from the biological view. Spiritual traditions, for thousands of years, have argued that suffering isn't just a random glitch. No, they see it as intentional, as a meaningful piece of a much bigger cosmic puzzle.
And what's so fascinating is how you see this same idea interpreted in different ways across traditions. In Christianity, suffering can be a way to find redemption, to connect with a divine sacrifice. In Buddhism, suffering, or dukkha, is actually the starting point. It's the thing that pushes you to seek enlightenment by letting go of your attachments. And for the old Stoic philosophers, it was like a trial by fire, a chance to build your character and practice resilience when things get tough.
Of course, this way of thinking runs right into its own massive question, what philosophers call the problem of evil. If there's a good, all-powerful force out there, why does it allow for so much pain in the world? It's a question that, honestly, these traditions have been wrestling with forever.
So we've got these two very different ways of looking at this. One says suffering is just a biological mechanism. The other says it's all about finding meaning. You'd think they couldn't be further apart. But what if they're not really fighting each other at all?
Let's think about it like this. Evolution gives us the how. It explains the biological hardware, the nerves, the hormones, the brain circuits that literally create the physical and emotional feeling of pain.
And then spirituality comes along and gives us the why. If evolution is the hardware, then you could say spirituality is the software. It's the operating system we use to process all that raw data, to find a story in it, and to figure out how to live with it.
And when you look at it that way, you start to see these really surprising places where they actually overlap. Both perspectives totally agree that going through hard times can be a huge catalyst for growth. Whether you call that learning from a mistake or becoming a better person, and both of them get the power of shared suffering. It's what triggers that evolutionary empathy, and it's what forges the deepest spiritual bonds in a community.
And all of this brings us to what might be the most powerful idea of all. That maybe meaning isn't just something you find lying around. Maybe it's something that we have to actively build for ourselves.
And nobody, perhaps nobody in history, understood this better than Viktor Frankl. He was a psychiatrist who survived the horrors of the Holocaust, and from that unimaginable experience, he realized something profound. He saw that the difference between who made it and who didn't often came down to one thing: having a sense of purpose.
So Frankl laid out these three main paths to finding that meaning. First, through our work, through what we create and give to the world. Second, through our experiences, through love, through beauty, through connecting with other people. And third, and this is the most important one, through the attitude we choose to take when we are faced with suffering that we simply cannot change. He said that this last freedom, the freedom to choose how you respond, that can never be taken from you.
So in the end, whether our capacity to suffer is an ancient evolutionary echo or some kind of cosmic test, the power to decide what it all means seems to rest with us. The real question then isn't just why do we suffer, it's when we are faced with it, what meaning will we choose to create?